Prime Field.
All right, Huskies fans. We just watched UConn stomp Butler, 80-48, and here's the twist that makes this postgame hit different. This was not just a win, this was a recruiting commercial. And it dropped the same week Olivia Vukosa got the biggest spotlight bump you can get in high school basketball. So tonight's real question is simple. Did UConn just reveal the next era? And is Geno Auriemma about to change the recruiting plan right in front of us? Because when a future 6'5" anchor gets named a McDonald's All-American, perception changes. And in recruiting, perception is momentum. Let's start with what happened on February 3rd, 2026. Olivia Vukosa was named a McDonald's All-American. That is not a cute headline. That is a national validation that tells every recruit, every coach, every fan base, and every rival program the same thing. UConn landed a franchise-level pillar in the class of 2026, and it fits the UConn brand. She's ranked as the number 3 overall prospect in her class. She's a 6'5" center from Christ the King High School, and her production is loud. 19.4 points, 17.9 rebounds, 5.5 blocks per game. That is not potential. That is ready-now energy. And Geno did what Geno always does. He framed it in basketball language. He compared her to Stephanie Dolson. He called her the most skilled kid coming out of high school for her size. This is not a back-to-the-basket statue. This is a modern big who can facilitate, move, and punish you in space. Now let's layer in the history. UConn has signed 49 McDonald's All-Americans. That is the most in the history of women's college basketball. So when UConn adds another one, it is not just a badge. It is a signal. UConn is not recruiting to survive. UConn is recruiting to overwhelm. Now let's talk about the game, because this is where the post-game pivot becomes real. UConn beats Butler by 32, and they did it while Sarah Strong, the nation's top scorer, did not play. They did it without Blanca Quinones. They did it without Caroline Ducharme. And the machine still ran. 5 different Huskies hit double figures. 9 available players made at least 2 field goals. That is not a hot shooting night. That is roster architecture. You know what that tells recruits? It tells them UConn is not a one-star show. It tells them the system manufactures opportunity. And it tells them the floor is elite even when the ceiling piece sits. And that matters for Vukosa, because the bar she walks into is not just talent, it is expectation. Look at the standard set in this win. Jana El-Alfi grabs 11 rebounds in 21 minutes. That is a physical benchmark for UConn postplay. UConn holds Butler to 6 points in the second quarter. That is the defensive identity Vukosa is expected to anchor. Butler shoots 25% from 3. That is what happens when you do not get clean looks and you cannot breathe. UConn forces 14 steals and blocks 5 shots. That is pressure basketball. That is rim protection feeding transition. And the transition points off turnovers, 13 of them is not a random stat. That is the exact environment a rim runner thrives in. So yes, this was a win, but it was also a proof of concept. UConn is building a team that can win with guards, win with wings, and still punish you with size. Now we get to the real drama, because Vukosa's All-American status changes how UConn can recruit from here. There are 2 philosophies. One is need-based recruiting. You look at the roster, you fill the gaps, you chase specific roles. The other is elite stacking. You take the best talent, you create depth so unfair that injuries, slumps, and matchups do not matter. And the Butler game just screamed elite stacking. UConn stayed undefeated at 25-0. They extended the win streak to 41, and they looked comfortable doing it. That is what stacking does. It raises the floor. It turns a roster into a shock absorber. And here's the key. By landing Vukosa, UConn can stop acting like the front court is an emergency. They can recruit like a superpower. That means the next scholarship is not about do we need a post. It is about who is the best player that makes the whole roster scarier. Now let's bring in the name that has recruiting boards buzzing. Sara Okeke, 6'4", international prospect from Spain, currently at DME Academy, and described as a nimble, new-age post with rare physicality. This is where the chess match gets spicy, because Okeke is not just another big. She's a championship pick, rim protection, rim running, finishing with both hands, and shot blocking that changes your whole defensive ceiling, and the competition is real. Texas, Kentucky, South Carolina. Kentucky is going a full theater with it. Fans chanting, "We want Sarah," during her visit. That tells you how coveted she is. Now imagine this. Vukosa plus Okeke. 2 elite bigs, 2 rim protectors, 2 bodies that turn the paint into a no-fly zone. That is the Twin Towers dream. But here's the other side. UConn already has Sarah Strong. They already have Jana El-Alfi. They already have Ice Brady. So if UConn adds Okeke too, what happens to role clarity? What happens to minutes? What happens when a 5-star expects a stage and gets a rotation puzzle? Because the rotation is already ruthless. Ayanna Patterson played 7 minutes against Butler. 7. That is not a random coaching choice. That is a message. At UConn, you are not promised time. You earn trust. The Okeke decision is bigger than talent. It is identity. Does UConn double down on overwhelming interior size? Or do they pivot to best player available and grab a high-usage wing that opens the floor? If you're wondering why fans are locked in on this, it is because when you are number 1, undefeated and cruising, the only drama left is the future puzzle. Fans are looking at the pipeline and asking real questions. If the front court gets too crowded, do players leave early? If roles are unclear, does the transfer portal become a threat? And the minutes from this game poured gasoline on that debate. Ali Zebo plays 31 minutes. Ashlyn Shade plays 36 minutes. That tells you Geno is not scared to lean on the young core. AZ Fudd drops 15 first-half points. That tells you the perimeter is still the engine. And yet the defensive backbone is still built on size, the blocks, the steals, the rebounding. So what is UConn becoming? A guard-driven machine like the early 2010s? Or a post-dominant problem like the late worst 2000s? Let's put it into one clean debate. Spacing versus rim protection. Spacing is how you punish zones. Spacing is how you create driving lanes for guards. Spacing is how you keep the offense smooth when the paint gets crowded. Rim protection is how you break teams mentally. Rim protection turns decent shots into bad shots. Rim protection fuels transition because stops become fast breaks. Now here's what UConn showed against Butler. They hit 5 3-pointers. They created driving lanes. They got easy looks because Butler had to react. And they also held Butler to 22 points in the paint. They controlled the second quarter. They used defense to ignite runs. That is why Vukosa is such a big deal. She's not just a rim protector. She is a connector. A big who can move the ball and still erase mistakes. So the next recruiting move is a referendum. If UConn takes Okeke, they are telling the sport, we are building a wall. If UConn takes an elite wing, they are telling the sport, we are building a runway. Either way, they are building something that is supposed to outlast the Paige Beckers era and create a new era of dominance. Now let's be honest, recruiting is not just basketball anymore. It is market, it is platform, it is brand. Top recruits want visibility, they want usage, they want a clear path to being featured, and UConn can sell the biggest stage. A sellout crowd, national broadcasts, prime time windows. This Butler game had 13,811 in the building, and it was on FS1. AZ Fudd scores 17. That is a brand-building performance. Kellis Fisher and Kaylee Heckel combined for 12 off the bench. And even that matters because at UConn the bench still plays on a spotlight stage, but the pitch has to include clarity. Where do you play? When do you play? What is your role? Because NIL value follows those minutes and shots. So UConn's challenge is not convincing recruits that UConn wins. It is convincing them they can be an alpha inside a system that spreads the credit. Now let's end with the part that makes recruiting feel like a thriller. Momentum. Scholarship spots are finite. Top targets are watching each other. And when one big domino falls, everyone else makes a decision faster. Vukosa's All-American spotlight bump just added urgency. If Okeke commits anywhere soon, it forces other undecideds to react. If UConn lands another top piece, it creates fear of missing out. If UConn pivots to a wing, it signals the front court is set and the last pieces are about spacing and scoring. And the fact UConn is 25-0 and riding a 41-game win streak makes the pitch even louder. This is a proven winner. This is stability. This is a system that keeps rolling. So the next commitment is not just a recruit. It is a storyline trigger. So here's the post-game pivot. Olivia Vukosa becoming a McDonald's All-American did not just validate her. It validated UConn's recruiting gravity. And the Butler blowout showed the blueprint. Depth, defense, multiple scorers. A system that does not break when a star sits. Now the question is what Geno does next. Does UConn chase Sara Okeke and go full Twin Towers, turning the paint into a fortress? Or does UConn pivot to an elite wing and build the spacing that keeps the offense unstoppable? Drop your answer in the comments. Are you team rim protection or team spacing? And if you are Geno, what is the next upgrade path for this roster?
Prime Field!